What's up, hockey fans, and welcome to episode number 71 of Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast, recording here on Tuesday night, April 5th, 2022. We have got a very fun show. This is something I've been looking forward to for a while now, because I got to tell you, being up here in upstate New York and liking the New York State Heights, especially on the AHL end of it, we kind of get locked into our Eastern Conference box. Well, there is the whole other side of the league, which is the Western Conference. There is AHL past the Mississippi, so to speak. We don't talk about it too much because, frankly, we don't play those teams. And so I've got our guest here today who's going to talk about that with us. But before I bring him in, of course, I want to say hi to my cohort, my co-host, my sidekick. He's back. He's feeling better. And look at this. He made cookies.
Yeah.
It's Dave
cookies.
The Save Warner. Great
like
job, Chef Warner.
No, I did not make them. My wife made those. You wouldn't want to eat them if I did.
Well, at least you're giving proper credit where it's due.
Absolutely, because she'll probably watch this and make sure I did.
Well, I'll be back home next week because you will be in the hospital again for sure.
Exactly. It'll be an every week thing. Take me 2 weeks to heal.
We're going to be in the trauma unit this time.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
Yeah, right. Well, tell her I said she has done a fantastic job.
There better be some fewer number on there when we leave.
Oh, there's going to be a zero number on there when we leave, so don't you worry about that. Anyways, other members of our crew, Jeremy this week is at baseball tryouts with his son. So last week it was junior comet stuff. This week he's on to baseball. He's going to try to join us a little bit later on. So hopefully that'll work out. And of course, Dom has been just working his butt off. Poor guy, really, he's working 12, 13-hour days, still out there on his route. So hopefully someday we'll get him back.
Still out there on his route.
He is.
Saw the truck go by a minute ago.
Well, I don't know if that was a wave or a single finger wave.
Or that could have been the ice cream truck. I don't know, either one. Or the mail truck.
Exactly. But anyways, that notwithstanding, let's bring our guest in. Our guest is the co-host of the Making It Rain podcast. Part of the Hockey Royalty family. I've mentioned on this show before that I am an LA Kings fan, and I will be an LA Kings fan until the day they put me in the ground. But we are also a part of the hockeyroyalty.com, which covers the LA Kings. And the podcast I do with them is Hockey Royalty. And this gentleman is the co-host of Making It Rain, which covers the Ontario Reign in the Pacific Division of the AHL. We have got a lot in common, which we're going to be talking about in just a second, but I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. It's Mr. Joe Patarino. Joe, how are you?
Fantastic. I'm going to tell you right now, send some of those cookies on I-90 West and send them to Rochester because I need some. Despite being an Ontario Reign, I'm in Rochester, and I could use some cookies right about now.
There you go.
They're really good.
I believe it.
Yeah, well, I'm smelling them. I'm like, I can't wait till we get to commercial break.
You can gnaw in between. Let them talk for a while.
Yeah, because you don't want to hear that going on the microphone either.
True.
So, Joe, what's going on?
Oh, not much, man. Like I said, I'm in Rochester, so we got a little bit of snow over the weekend, but I think we're hopefully done with that at this point. We can move on here in April. So ready for a fun end to the hockey season, both NHL and AHL. It's going to be fun. And
absolutely.
Actually, I got a chance to take my older son. He just turned 3 a little while ago to his first Amerks game here in Rochester. So that was a blast.
Nice.
Yeah. So
nice.
Right up, you guys obviously in the same division, Utica and the Amerks. So that's right up your alley.
Absolutely. We see the Amerks quite a bit. We play them. The Comets play them 10 times this season. So quite familiar. But before we get into that, let's talk about the common threads that you and I have. Other than the fact that we're Kings fans and that we're under the Hockey Royalty umbrella, you, of course, mentioned that you're from Rochester, New York.
Yep.
So, and in our conversations before, you have been a Kings fan your entire life.
As long as I've been known, yes.
So let's talk about how that came to be.
So I was, Gretzky was traded in 88? August of 88. I was just turned 3. So I had no idea what was obviously going on at the time. But my dad, who was a Bruins fan, and for those of you old enough, the Rochester Americans were the farm team for the Boston Bruins back in the day. Mm-hmm. So I assume that's where that came from. So he had the foresight, I guess. Good on him. He recorded Gretzky's first game at home in Los Angeles, the new white sweaters, the white and black unis. They played the Detroit Red Wings. And for whatever reason, that tape, that VHS tape, which I still have, is the first game I can remember watching of ice hockey. So I just fell in love with that team. It was Gretzky, it was Robitaille, the Bernie Nichols, Kelly Rudy, Tomas Sandstrom, like go down the line. I fell in love with that era of the Kings and, never looked back. I mean, I had a house that, like I said, my dad was a Bruins fan. My older brother was a Rangers fan. But I ended up going the complete opposite direction, not picking either of those or Buffalo and going to the Kings. So,
it's so funny how our stories are similar, except for the fact that I am older than you. Now I feel really old after hearing that was your first game that you ever watched. Because like you, I'm a Kings fan because of Gretzky. But prior to his trade, I mean, I became an Oilers fan when I was like 7 years old. So you're looking at like 1981. My dad, Gumper, who was someday going to be back on this show. He's still playing shuffleboard, believe it or not. The shuffleboard has just interfered with everything. But anyways, that notwithstanding, Gumper is a huge Ranger fan. So I used to be subjected to the Rangers over and over again from WWOR out of Secaucus, New Jersey. Great announcing. They had Sam Rosen and John Davidson even back then, which was,
wow.
But
lucky you.
Yeah, I mean, but I ended up watching Gretzky play in one of those games as a little kid. I'm like, wow, this guy, I think he put up like 8 points that night or something ridiculous, right? So naturally, Gumper couldn't stand him. But I was like, oh, man, this guy's great. Look what he just did, Dad. How can you not be impressed by this, right? Go away. He doesn't back check. He doesn't blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, so I ended up finding going to the library and finding the World Almanac for 1982. This is how old I am. There was no internet or anything like that. And I found the address for the Edmonton Oilers fan club, and I mailed them a letter, and they sent me back a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I wish I still had it. They sent me like a calendar and pictures and all. It was so cool, so cool. And anyways, then, of course, they traded him to L.A., and I'm like, well, if this team can't keep the great one around, you can't keep me around either. So I'm not sure which was bigger loss for the Edmonton Oilers, Gretzky or losing Scott Kinville as a fan. Yeah, I know. But they got over both, I guess. But so, yeah, anyway, so here we are. But you also have some connections to this area here, Central New York as well.
I do. A few of them, as a matter of fact. I mean, I played college hockey and won a couple of championships with the then junior college, Morrisville State College Mustangs.
Nice.
Loved my time at Morrisville. I actually ended up spending a third year there because I changed my major. So, and I had a roommate that was from the area in Whitesboro, and one of your current Pioneers, Justin Allen. I had the privilege of coaching at Hilton High School. I'm an assistant coach there, and have been doing that now for, I think it's been 12 years. Holy cow. And I had the privilege of coaching him since he was a little guy. So it's great to see the successful season that he's had. So, yeah, I got some connections to that part of the state for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, what a hocky player. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Still smooth hands, good skater. Yeah, he's a fun one to coach, fun one to have on your team. That's for sure.
And we were talking before the show went live. You said that this is not a new thing. He has always been that good.
Always. And he's always been he was always at the rink. He's a hockey kid through and through. And I remember him when he was just a little, before he hit his growth spurt as a freshman, he was getting his nose dirty. He was always one of the harder working kids in practice. He just loved being on the ice. So it's not a surprise. As happy as I am for him to see him doing well, it's not a surprise because he's always had that. You could see it from when he was a freshman in high school that the kid was going to be a hockey player. Yeah,
absolutely. And he's, like I said, he was just absolutely incrable for Utica this year. And I mean, I'm telling you, he's got a hockey future in front of him for sure. But switching gears, let's first of all, let's talk about your podcast for a second. Making It Rain. Tell us all about it.
So it's funny. I mean, I joined Hockey Royalty last summer as to be, just contribute, write for the site, whatnot. And then, we got Ryan, the editor, got was looking for somebody to host a rain podcast, and my co-host Randon McMahon reached out and was interested in doing it. So it was actually kind of funny, the story there. Like, we had never met each other, had no idea who each other were. We sat down to do our test run to see if we were going to be approved for Hockey Royalty's website. We chatted for 5 to 10 minutes to be like, hey, I'm Joe, I'm Randon, get to know each other for a few minutes and say, okay, let's hit record and see what happens. And before you know it, we went about an hour and it was awesome. And off we went ever since. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had the opportunity to interview some good guests. We had Scott Wheeler on from The Athletic to talk some prospects. We had Matt Villalta, the starting goalie, on for the Reign. So we had Jacob Stoller just recently on, who's a writer for out west or Midwest area up for Winnipeg and Manitoba. So we've had an opportunity to interview some good guests, and it's been a fun run here, and it's been helpful that the Ontario Reign, especially the start that they had. I mean, holy cow, they've been at least at the start of the season, we're one of the best teams in the league. So it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely. And in our graphic, we have the Reign part misspelled. It's supposed to be REIGN.
Oh, there it is.
Now I'm taking another cookie away from Dave. That's it. He's had too many of those. Way too many.
I've had too many.
But I think you guys also...
I had to spell it.
I did. I said REIGN. You were thinking about too many cookies. It's okay.
Listen,
it happens to the best of us, especially when they're this good. Don't worry about it.
You're fired.
Anyways, I think you guys had Sean O'Brien on from the Calder Farmstead as well. He's been on this show too.
I knew it was and I watched him on your show too. He had the Utica in the background on his screen. He's good at what he does. He had a Kings jersey on when he came to our show. So yeah, he's a great guest.
Oh, he is. He's absolutely amazing. So let's talk about that Pacific Division for a little bit.
Yeah.
Now you said in the Reign they started off hotter than a firecracker. I mean, they were actually leading that division by quite a bit at one point, I believe.
They were, for a while. And
then the Kings started to kind of pick the roster apart as injuries happen. That's life in the AHL, right? It's the AHL's point is to supply the NHL. So
exactly, and you look at this lineup that the Reign are trotting out there right now, and it's a different lineup. I mean, they're missing, Velarde and Kapari, not to mention, probably more importantly, Dursey and Jordan Spence. They've missed, Cale Clegg was at the start of the season, but he was gone. They had a number. Austin Strand has been up and down, not to mention Jared Anderson Dolan, who's been up and down. So they're missing some huge pieces to that lineup that they just have a hard time kind of filling. And then Martin Firk, he was back over the weekend, but he missed a couple of games. And Alex Turcotte and Tyler Madden have been out for a while. I don't know when they're expected back. So you figure there's about 6 or 7 guys there that I just rattled off. They've signed some college free agents. They made a couple of depth moves at the deadline on the defensive side of things, but it's a different lineup right now. So what once was a team that you thought was like, this team could steamroll through an AHL playoff, they're vulnerable right now. And there's no lock that this is a team that gets out of the first round. It's going to be a tough matchup. They just got swept at home to Colorado over the weekend. So, it's a different Reign team right now. And with as successful as the Kings are, I don't know that the Velarde, Byfield, I don't know when those guys are coming down. They may not if the Kings stick around in the playoffs.
Right, because, I mean, there was the question mark of whether Byfield was going to play in Ontario. Was he going to play in LA this season? Obviously, he's not coming back to Ontario. He's, cemented in the LA lineup. And just so our listeners know, for the Pacific Division, because we're just talking about the playoff format for that division, because this season is really screwy because each team almost seems to have its own qualifications, right?
I know.
So with the Pacific, it's the top 7 teams based on points percentage, right? And then the first place team gets a bye.
That's correct.
Okay.
Which at this point, it's Stockton.
Right.
I will say the Reign play Stockton 2 games in a row here this week. So if the Reign are able to grab all 4 points against them and not give any, loser points to Stockton along the way, that inches them a little bit closer. It gets them to within 3, but you're running out of games at this point. So Stockton is going to come in first. And I think the Reign are pretty well settled in second. So, they're going to have to play a first round series. They're not going to get that bye. It's going to be, I believe it's a best of 3 that first round too.
I think so. Yeah.
So they're going to have to deal with that. Which again, given the current state of the roster, it's not a guarantee.
Well, I tell you, those best of 3 are the worst. Oh. They're the worst. If you're like the quote unquote favorite,
because seen him here in Rochester so many. I mean, I feel like Toronto would beat Rochester every single best of 3 at one point. Maybe a few years back, it seemed it never mattered how good Rochester was. They wouldn't get by Toronto in that first best of 3.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. I mean, it's maddening. Is what it is. You put together this great team that's like, oh man, Best of 3? Come on.
And
the puck bounce is the one way and we're out,
Yeah. And so how about the North Division there in the East? Is that the same type of setup, or what's that
with the North? It's the top 5 teams based on points percentage. Everything's on all the divisions are based on points percentage this season. And then the top 3 teams get a bye.
Oh, okay.
Seeds 4 and 5 play each other in a best of 3. And then it reseeds for the 4 remaining. And then that's best of 5 all the way up until the Calder Cup.
I'm laughing because 4 and 5 is Rochester, Toronto. Right?
Yeah, there you go, right?
Amazing.
Old nightmares come true. But no, it is. That's the crazy part. But I'll tell you, I can't wait till next season, because next season, everybody has to play 72 games. There is going to be no more of the, one team's going to play 76, and then like the Pacific Division teams only play 68. And I understand that because of travel purposes. I mean, that division is spread out all over the place.
Yeah.
Yes, a majority of it's in California, but you also have to go up to the Abbotsford, British Columbia. There's another
down to Tucson, Arizona.
Right. You're all over the place. So, I mean, I can understand that end of it.
Yep.
Colorado too. Exactly. And plus there's 9 teams in the division.
Yep.
So,
yeah, exactly.
So there's that, but
we've only played the Reign have only played one out of division team. It's been Grand Rapids. That's it. We haven't seen anybody else from that central division. So it's a weird schedule right now, but it is what it is.
I wanted to ask you about that too, because here in the North Division, like I was telling you, the Comets haven't played anybody from the West. It's sporadic when they play the Atlantic Division, which is obviously the other division in the Eastern Conference. I would love, and I understand that a lot of it has to do with money, right? Because travel costs is expensive, and the AHL doesn't have the kind of disposable income that the NHL has when it comes to all that, right? They don't have the huge TV deals and all that. And I understand that there are some teams that go on long road trips. Like I'll give you an example: the Laval Rocket went to Texas to play the Texas Stars, right? And this was beginning of January, I want to say, end of December, beginning of January. But the Rocket are owned by Montreal. So the clubs that are owned by the NHL teams can have a little bit more leeway as opposed to the independently owned clubs, right?
Sure.
So it's understandable, but man, I would love to see it just be able to, I mean, even if like they don't go all the way west, or like the NFL used to do it, right? So 1 year, Team A comes and plays the North Division.
Yep.
And then the next year, a team from the North Division goes out and plays the Western Division team. Just something like that. I mean, it would be so much just to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's why especially at the start of the season when both teams were kind of rolling, I was like, man, it would be a lot of fun to see an Ontario Reign and Rochester Americans Calder Cup Final. That'd be a blast. And I'm still pulling for that, but both teams have kind of come back a little bit. So as guys have been called up to their respective teams. So we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, it is a little awkward. You're playing you just play the same, at least like you said, at least in the Pacific, there's 9 teams. So there is at least 8 teams that you can play. But yeah.
Well, I think Ontario still has the top-ranked offense in the league, though, right? I think they scored the most goals.
They do, and here's it: and this was always going to be interesting how it went into the playoffs because their power play is ridiculous. They've lost a full percentage point since a lot of these call-ups. So this was a team that was clicking at like 28, almost 29% not that long ago, and they're down to about 26, 27 right now. TJ Tynan had Spencer Dursey. And then he had Velarde, and he had, now Ferk is back in the lineup. But Jared Anderson-Dolan was outstanding down low, and Velarde was great in the bumper. Madden great in the bumper, but he's hurt. So it's just, again, it's a makeshift kind of lineup right now. They're really leaning heavily on, Samuel Fagimo's getting a lot of, I mean, he's starting to put some pucks in the net. So he's having a quietly pretty good season. They've got a college signee, Taylor Ward. He's playing first line wing with Tynan and Martin Ferk. So they were a team that would outscore their problems because they did have a young defense. Spence is a first year. People remember Spence is a first year AHL player. He's a first year pro. Helge Grans, first year pro. So they had their goaltending is okay. They outscored teams and they didn't miss on the power play. Now they're having a little bit harder time putting pucks in the net, but still some of the same problems, if not exacerbated, because they don't have those defensemen anymore. So it's
right, exactly, and that hurts. People don't realize how much that hurts, but
no question.
But it's funny that this is exactly why I wanted to talk about this, because like I said, as far as the Eastern Conference goes, we don't know about what's going on out in the West.
Yeah.
And so I kind of just took it upon myself to do a little bit of a deep dive into the West. And it looks like, as far as like the overall scorers list, a majority of the top 20 scorers are playing in the Western Conference. So what I wanted to ask you is, and this is just a generalization, I'm just kind of throwing this out there, is the Western Conference more of an offensive-driven conference, and the Eastern Conference is kind of more of a tight checking, defensive type of conference, or is that just kind of an outlier?
You know, it's so funny you asked that, because I swear to you, and guys, we didn't plan this. Like, I was going to ask a similar question to you, because I saw Rochester play Bridgeport, and it was just chaos. It was like it ended 6-5, and I know Rochester plays a ton of high scoring games too. They got some of the higher scoring guys in the league as well. So I would say it's tough. So most of the games I'm watching are obviously Reign, and the Reign are a team that you're going to see goals, because they're going to score them, and they're probably giving them up. They don't have a shutout all season, and they have been shut out only once. So there is going to be a lot of goals scored.
Joe, are you trying to tell me they're the Edmonton Oilers of the AHL?
Listen. If you haven't had a chance, for anybody that hasn't had a chance to get TJ Tynan, I know he's not a household name. He won the AHL MVP last year with Colorado. He is incredible. He's as dominant. And again, being in Rochester, I've seen a lot of AHL hockey over the years. He's as dominant an AHL player as I think I've ever seen. If he gets hot here down the stretch, he could break the assist record in the AHL. He's got over 70 assists right now. And when that power play, when they had that full unit clicking, it was fun to watch. But I would say, but to that point, like, so the Reign are going to play up and at them, but there are teams. Stockton is going to slow them down. Those are really tough games. Abbotsford, every game against Abbotsford has been really, really tight, kind of 1-goal games, a little bit more tight check. San Diego gets a little emotional. You got a little rivalry there, though, so sometimes that leaks into it. Colorado can put pucks in the net. That's another team that has a pretty success. And again, they're leaky too. I think their penalty kill isn't very good. So it just depends on the team in general. In the Central Division, Grand Rapids, that's the only team that I've had a good enough chance to see in the Central Division.
Right.
Again, not a team that keeps pucks out. So they're another team you can expect a lot of offense and a lot of goals. But against the Reign, you definitely see teams that try to slow them down. Stockton and Abbotsford have done a decent job of that. But I would ask a similar question to you, because I got the impression watching that Amherst game and just seeing some of them on the periphery just living around here, man, they're an exciting team. And just I get the sense that maybe that's a lot of the Eastern Conference. I think Utica is a really good team as well.
You know, it's so strange, because like Rochester is a offensive buzzsaw. They really are. I mean, they got Jack Quinn, JJ Paterka. When Peyton Krebs was here, he was lighting it up. Ethan Prowl's been pretty dominant on the blue line, right? I think the Comets overall are 4th or 5th in the league in offense. But they're kind of like as good as they are on offense, it's almost kind of a sneaky good, right? Because you don't think of the Comets offense in the same line as like the Reign or Rochester, which, you know, is kind of more of the pinball high scoring kind of things, right? I think the Comets, the thing with the Comets is they're consistent, right? So you know you're going to get 3 goals at least from the Comets. Most nights more than that. Few nights, obviously, you're going to get less. That's what happens in hockey. But I kind of just tend to believe that overall the Eastern Conference is kind of like more of the old school grind them down, tight checking. And again, I mean, obviously, I've watched a few Reign games because I had the AHL TV, and how could I not? Being, you know, if they're on, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to watch some Reign, right? But then I say that, and you look at a team like Stockton that has one of the most dominant goaltenders in the league, in Dustin Wolf. Again, a name that nobody here has heard about, but he's like 31-6-4, I think, something like that. And it's really hard to make the generalization, but you would almost think that just from looking at the top 20 scorers alone.
And I think you summed it up right there, where it's really tough to make that generalization. At least it seems this season, because the way you were describing Utica, kind of that really consistent. You know what you're going to get, and they're going to get you 3 to 4. They're not going to give up a ton. It sounds like Stockton. You know, Stockton's a really, really tough team to play against. You mentioned Wolf and Nat, he's probably one of the better goalies in the entire AHL. He's a young kid. I believe he's a rookie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
You know, they got Jacob Pelletier has been a really impressive kid.
That's right.
Adam Ruzicka, it depends whether I believe he was just called up and he played, I think, last night against the Kings. So, you know, he's another one. Yeah. So he's another one. Like, they're a deep team. They're not a team that's going to outscore you. Like, when I was watching that Rochester game, I was like, if they play the Reign, neither team gets saves. 6K over there. Uko Pekka-Luukkonen. You know,
I love saying that name.
As much as I want to like him, he's all over the crease. I mean, if they played Ontario, it would be a 6-5 game every game. But if they played like a Stockton, they could have their work cut out for him.
Right.
Stockton will make them pay. It sounds like Utica is a much more balanced attack, similar to a Stockton.
Right. And, you know, it's the game that Kevin Dineen brings. And you'll know Kevin Dineen from being the head coach of the San Diego Gulls last season. It's that same, I'm going to roll 4 lines.
Yep.
I'm going to tight check you. We are going to take advantage of our opportunities. And this is what we do. So,
yeah.
So,
and the thing is, and the thing with what helped Stockton counter Ontario, especially earlier in the season, where Ontario's power play is among the best in the league, so is Stockton's, but Stockton's penalty kill is outstanding. They're almost at 90% on the kill. Yeah. So they're really, really, and again, Wolf, I'm sure, has a lot to do with that, but they're a really, really a structured team, a balanced team, and a disciplined team. So it'd be hard pressed right now to say they're not maybe heavy favorites is too strong, but it's tough to see them not coming out of the Pacific right now.
Yeah. And well, you know what they say, your goaltender is your best penalty killer.
Yeah. And the Reign have not had great goal. I mean, like I said, Matty Villalta, we had on the show, and we had a chance to talk to him and about his development and where he's kind of come and his story. And he's had stretches this year where he's been awesome, but he goes in lulls where it's rough. And if he hits that at the wrong point, you know, it's a problem. And they've had Garrett Sparks as a backup, but he's been hurt for a while. So, you know, there's not a lot of stability behind Villalta. So that's where the Reign could find themselves in some trouble in that Pacific Division playoffs. Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I mean, really, the way you described it, Ontario is Rochester West.
Yeah.
Can put up a ton of goals and just can't keep them out.
That's the vibe I get. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's true. So let's see. I think it's Colorado in 3rd place, right? Yes. So then it's Bakersfield, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
That would be the Oilers AHL affiliate. And then the Abbotsford Canucks, which fans from around here are familiar with them because they were basically the former Utica Comets. So what have you seen out of that team?
That I tell you, it is amazing. I think I mentioned before too, like every game it seems with the Reign, they are tight. They are 1-goal games. They're always going to overtime. They're going to a shootout. Their first win, it was either overtime or a shootout. Their first win as a team, as Abbotsford, was really early in the season. They beat the Reign. Again, I can't remember if it was overtime or a shootout, but again, it was another 1-goal game. That's another team that plays a little bit more of that tight checking type of style. And they do a pretty good job of sticking and keeping games close with the Reign, where a lot of teams haven't been able to. And this is even when the Reign were operating at full strength. Those games against Abbotsford were real tough. They were brutal games to play for sure. They were rough.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the way it's always been. I mean, for that team. So
yeah. I mean, they don't score a ton. They don't give up a ton. They're kind of, they're a middle of the pack type of team across the board, really, but they work very hard and their structure is sound. And again, when you're able to keep a team like the Reign in check when they were at their peak roster, which Abbotsford did a pretty good job of. So yeah, that'll be a tough one. And that could be, depending on how things shake out, I think they're going to finish. They should finish in that 5 spot or 4 or 5 spot. So the Reign will miss them. It looks like anyways.
But it looks like they have pretty solid goaltending. I was looking at some of their stats. I mean, Mikey DiPietro, who was here last season, and then Spencer Martin, I think is their other goaltender, who's having a heck of a season himself. And honestly, that's kind of the way it was in Utica too. I mean, they always had mostly they had solid goaltending. I mean, you had Jacob Markstrom come through here, who led them to the 15 Calder Cup Final. Thatcher Demko was fantastic when he was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so I mean, you look at those two, what they're doing in the NHL now. So yeah, and honestly, correct me if I'm wrong, but could Abbotsford be one of those teams that kind of sneaks up on somebody, and especially in a short series?
No question. And you know what they do? What they do really well, man. Sheldon Dries, and I apologize if it's Dries or Dries. I believe it's Dries. He kills Ontario. So he's a really dangerous player. I think he's one of the more higher scoring. He's got 18 power play goals. I was going to say he's one of the more. He's very dangerous on the power play. They've got some offense. Phil DiGiuseppe, he's burned Ontario a few times this season too. They can be a pretty opportunistic team. Former Reign Kings organization, Sheldon Rempel's another one that sticks around. Justin Bailey has had his moments, but no question. That team is absolutely one that could do a little bit of damage. And what's funny, you mentioned the goaltending. A guy that the Reign saw a few times was a guy he's only played, it looks like 10 games, Artur Silovs. I'm telling you though, man, he battles in net. I don't know where he came from. I don't know much about him, but you know, because you mentioned Mikey DiPietro's there and the Lions share and Martin are there. They're split most of the time, but it must have been early in the season when maybe there was some injury situation. Artur Silovs came in, man, and there was a couple of games where he almost stole them. I mean, so they got a little bit of depth there too if they need it.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned that because it almost sounds like Ontario just imitates LA in that way because the Kings have this way of making the backup goaltender for the other team look like a Vezina winners. They played their best game of their career against the Kings.
And I think it was I'm pretty sure he's the one that backstopped Abbotsford's first career win. He made like 35 saves. It was either an overtime or a shootout. And I was like, who the heck is this guy? But I think he's played probably a third of his games against Ontario, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, no, they're a sneaky team.
Yeah, because I mean, 1 through 5 have already clinched the playoff spot as far as I know, right? Yep. So obviously Stockton, Ontario, Colorado, Bakersfield, Abbotsford, sorry. So let me see, and I'm doing all this by memory, so bear with me. I believe 6th place is San Diego Gulls, and then 7th is the Hendersonville Knights, Silver Knights. Sorry.
Silver Knights. You got it.
So
you're right.
So the Gulls are, of course, the Ducks farm team, and the Silver Knights are naturally the Golden Knights farm team. Correct. So are they pretty much going to be the 6th and 7th seeds, or do Tucson and San Jose have a chance?
No, there's just not enough games left. It would take a really hot stretch from Tucson. So I don't see that happen. I think
they're in a desert.
Well played. I think it's going to be Henderson or San Diego, and the Reign have done very well against both of those teams. That's who Ontario is going to be matching up with, one of those teams. But again, like sneaky teams, San Diego. Jacob Perreault's had a good season. Alex Limoges him and Hunter Drew bury the Ontario Reign for whatever reason. They seem to score a ton of goals. And Ali Eriksson-Ek, the only shutout the Reign have had this season has come at the hands of Ali Eriksson-Ek in goal of San Diego. So that's not going to be an easy game whenever a Ducks Kings type of system gets together. So, and same thing with Henderson with the Silver Knights. That would be again another tough matchup for Ontario. Pavel Dorofeyev, a young player, he's been really good. So it's Logan. And well, you know what could help Ontario there is Logan Thompson. He's been up in Vegas, and if he stays up there, that's going to be a kicker. Hopefully he does.
Yeah, right.
For Ontario standpoint.
Yeah, I think obviously that all depends on how quickly Robin Leonard gets back.
He just played. I think he just played the other day. He's back.
Oh, did they? Oh, okay, so there you go. That just shows you. Way to pay attention to that one, Scott.
He just got back. Yeah, because I kind of caught me off guard. I thought he was going to be out even longer.
Yeah, the way they were talking, I thought he was at least 2 weeks away.
So did I. But
isn't that amazing how that works in hockey, though? They're such BS artists sometimes. We don't know when this guy's coming. We're still working through a few things. 5 minutes later, he's on the ice. Oh, guess he worked pretty fast, huh?
Well, over where you guys are in New Jersey, it seems very hush-hush on Jack Hughes right now after he got hurt the other day. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't seen any update there, but
I don't know. Nobody's obviously heard anything, but if it's got any kind of severity at all, they might as well just shut him down for the season. They're not making the playoffs. Yeah. So why push him back? And I'm very curious to see who's going to get the call from the Comets, because it's going to happen, right?
Yeah, so
they're going to want to
that's
see a
another
couple
thing.
guys.
Yeah, because so their number one. I guess the good thing for Utica is New Jersey's not going to the playoffs. Like for the Kings and the Reign,
right?
The Kings sent down paper transaction, Byfield, Velarde, Spence, and I believe it was Kapari.
Right.
So whenever the Kings season ends, they are eligible to come back down. But if the Kings are in the playoffs, they may not be going anywhere.
No.
So that's a tough spot where at least with Utica, those guys will be able to come back and play playoffs. But still, it's life in the AHL. You never know.
It is. It's insane. I mean, it's because the Devils only papered down Nico Dawes, the goaltender.
That was it.
And Tice Thompson came back because he was injured while he was playing in the NHL. So I guess there's a way that you don't have to paper them down by the trade deadline if they were on injured reserve and the injury happened in the NHL but they have eligibility for the AHL. They can just be sent back. And Tice Thompson's been just a madman since he came back. He's just lighting it up. So, good news there. But yeah, and that's the other thing about the AHL is it's going to be interesting to see how the dynamics on some of these teams change, because some teams are not getting their stars back, like you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
Say, and even over here in the East, take like a Toronto Marlies, for instance. They're not getting anybody back because obviously the Maple Leafs are going to be gearing up for a run.
Yep.
The Laval Rocket are going to be getting some guys back. They're in second place in the North. That's going to make things interesting.
Absolutely.
Rochester, the Americans, they'll get some guys back.
Absolutely.
That'll help shore it up a little bit. So
some pretty big time guys too.
Exactly. The Syracuse Crunch aren't getting anybody back from Tampa. That's not happening. So it's going to make things interesting. And that's kind of why you always have to pay attention to that AHL wire like a hawk, because if you don't, anything can sneak through.
And I think what's really helped Stockton in the Pacific Division is the Calgary Flames have been a really, really healthy team this season. So they haven't had to go and grab anybody from Stockton, from the AHL team, like a lot of these other teams. So maybe Stockton hasn't had to deal with that roster shakeup to where they have that lull of the season where they got a bunch of guys gone and up in Calgary. So by Calgary being very healthy, it's allowed Stockton to kind of really keep their team intact for most of the season, which I think has really benefited them.
But there and again, you never know what could happen in the next couple of weeks. They may lose some guys. 100%. But Joe, I gotta tell you something. So I have turned my wife into a hockey monster, right? A complete hockey monster. She's gonna be just as bad as me someday. She just left a comment here. She said Jack Hughes is out for the season. Devils just updated it 15 minutes ago. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
Are you going to let her see you eating cookies?
You know what? Now that you mention that, now I'm gonna have to bring some home. So I hope you made extras.
Yeah, they're there.
Well, that's a crucial update. That kills my fantasy team. I do have Jack Hughes in my semifinal season, so that's not ideal.
Ouch.
Hey, what a player he's been. That's a fun. Hey, the Devils are a fun looking team over there. They are, and they're only going to get better. Yeah, it's when they've got a team like the Utica that's playing as well as they are too, with some interesting players down there. That's a good looking team. Yeah, I would venture to guess that Zetterlund's going to get a look up in New Jersey before the end of the season. That would be. They're probably going to bring Holtz up, Alexander Holtz, who's just, we talked about it on the last show too. It's incredible watching him over the course of the season here in Utica, just his development alone. I mean, was this his rookie season, or has he been? So he was drafted in 2020, and he got like a cup of tea with Binghamton last year or something, when they were the Binghamton Devils. But this is his first full season. Okay. And then just watching him develop has just been amazing. He's gotten so much better in the defensive end of things. Yeah. And that shot is just something to behold. It's really cool to see how some of these kids develop and grow. That's the one thing watching Ontario as kind of as closely as I have is you see these kids, especially these ones that come from overseas. Helge Grans is a perfect example from the Kings organization. Right. He looked like he's 19 years old, very raw. And the way his growth from at the start of the season to where he is today, Jordan Spence is another one. He's playing in the NHL right now. Yeah. It is really cool to see the development of some of these kids and how some of them can kind of take off and go. Others, they take a little bit longer, but it's fun to watch.
And you know what the shocking part about all that is a lot of these players lost a lot of time because of COVID in their development.
Yeah.
That's the amazing part. It
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
difficult. It is difficult. You know, it's weird. Like you look at some kids, and I don't know if Utica had any of these guys last year, but you know, you look at say Quentin Byfield in 2020, like he normally wouldn't have been in Ontario. He wouldn't have gotten that time. He would have
Right.
been back in Sudbury, right? So, you know, you don't know how that affects certain guys. You know, I think some guys that maybe it helped, some guys that maybe didn't, but you know, I guess allowed a kid like him in that situation to be up and play pro hockey for a little bit. So it's kind of funky how that worked out this past, you know, couple of years.
What's your opinion on that? Should they amend the rules permanently so that
I've hated that for years.
It's kind of seemed ridiculous that just because a kid's 18 years old, he can't play in the AHL. And I get, you know, they're trying to protect the Canadian Hockey League, the juniors, but at some point, what good are you doing this kid?
Well, yeah,
by putting him in a league that he's clearly outgrown.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're not doing anything for him.
Yeah,
it's like being in high school, putting a varsity pitcher down in Little League.
Yeah, no, it's really to the detriment of the player. I mean, because they've clearly outgrown the league, but you know, maybe they're just not quite ready for the NHL, which is a massive step. But the AHL would be a perfect place for them to do that. And if I'm not mistaken, Austin Matthews, he went over to Europe.
Exactly.
Back with this. So, you know, he's playing pro hockey over there to help his development. And I think that's an interesting route to take. But yeah, I hate it. I've always hated it. It's frustrating because, you know, especially when you're the fan of like that NHL team and you have that big prospect, he gets his 8-9 games and you sit there and you wonder what they're going to do. And they send them back to junior and you're like, well, not going to get a chance to watch him much.
Right.
So it kind of sucks.
Well, because the Kings are going to be in the same boat next year with Brant Clark.
Yep.
By the way, his brother plays here in Utica, Graham Clark.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, how about that?
He's awesome. Yeah.
I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
That's his older brother.
Yeah, but you're right, though. Exactly. He's a guy who's ripping up the league now as we speak. And we're going to, if he isn't quite NHL ready, you got to send him back.
Yeah.
Boy. And so either you force him into an NHL position, which in turn is going to boot somebody else out and lose a job for somebody else. And that has to trickle down. Or you send him back to junior, which what left is he going to have to prove there? It's a crappy situation that I think we've all, is there a good argument for it? I mean, is there people that are on board with it that like, I don't know.
I'm sure the club owners in the Canadian Hockey League are all about that rule. Right? And that's not to say anything disparaging about him, but it's just, you're at a point with some of these players. Quentin Byfield, I think, was the one that really started that.
Yeah.
That, okay, I understand the rule for the AHL, but listen, he's outgrown this league. There's just nothing more you can do for this kid, Yep. So it'll be interesting to see. I thought that they were working on something like that, where it was going to be.
I hope so.
They had some kind of an agreement in place where it was going to be like 1 or 2 players per team can do it, or something screwy.
Because I guess in fairness, it probably is. It probably is the minority of players that are in that spot. It's your top end prospects, right? But doesn't that make it maybe a little bit easier to make those certain exceptions to have that one guy per team be able to do something like that? Because, yeah, I mean, if it is rare, but still, that's still a player that is, if anything, it's that much more important to that team's development and history or future, I should say. Right. So, yeah, hopefully something gets worked out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually kind of see it from like an AHL veterans point of view too. So if they allow that, then that's a little bit less job security. So there's a lot of factors involved with it.
Fair.
But I still think that even with that, I think regardless, at the end of the day, you got to look at a player's development and say, okay, listen, you got to move up. You got, you're never going to get. I'm not going to say never, but this season you're not going to get better playing at this level.
Right.
You need to be against better competition, period. So,
yeah.
But, just so odds and ends here. So you said that Tucson and San Jose, forget about it. But I do want to wish San Jose coach Roy Summer a very happy birthday. He's 65 today.
There we go.
So there's a positive for him for the season.
Okay.
Coach,
there we go.
Birthday today.
How about that?
So good for him. I think he's the winningest coach in AHL history, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah. So, and I know you said you haven't seen a lot out of the Central Division, but I'll tell you something. I watched Chicago Wolves and Milwaukee Admirals game the other night, and that Chicago Wolves team looks very tough. Very. I think they have 2 of the 3 top scorers in the league. They have their goaltending's like in the top 5. They're pretty stacked. They're Carolina's farm club. And like the Kings, Carolina has an extremely well-rated farm system. So
yep.
That's going to be, I think, obviously, they're going to be the team to beat out of the Central Division.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see what happens there. By the way, the Central has the same playoff setup that the North does.
Okay.
So top 5 teams are in. Top 3 get the bye. 4 or 5 battled out.
And talk about it, boy, oh boy, that's not even close. How far ahead they are. Although similar to Utica and Laval, though, there's a big point discrepancy there also. So, yeah. So would you say, you're sitting here, Utica Comets are getting set to enter the playoffs. Is the expectation this team should or can get to the final? Like, is this a year for Utica to make a deep run?
If the Comets play to their full potential, yes, absolutely. I do believe that. Again, short series always scare me.
Yep.
Always. And especially when you're getting in against like division rivals, naturally. I mean, especially when you take the Comets have played, well, by the time the regular season's over, they'll face the Crunch 14 times. They'll have played the Rochester American 10 times. Right? I mean, so once you get teams that are that familiar with each other, I'm not sure I want those teams in the first round anyways.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's just way too familiar. And again, the Comets should just get through, obviously. But like I said, there's always that scary kind of short series, one bad bounce, but on paper and in my hockey mind, yes, the Comets should do it. They got a few players that they're slumping right now, but once they snap out of it, it's going to be look out. So,
how would you say that division stacks up with the Atlantic in the East?
I think overall that the North Division is a little bit better.
Okay.
Springfield is obviously a very tough team over in the Atlantic. Providence is going to be a tough team. They're going to be a tough out. They're a very big team. They have great goaltending. Former Ontario Reign LA King Troy Grosenick is in Providence, and he's lighting the league up. So, excuse me. So, but I think on an overall comparison, I think that the North just has that slight edge over them. Because, again, take a team like Rochester, right, that can pour goals into the net. If they can, for one series, figure out how to keep the puck out, they're going to be a tough out. That's just the facts. They are. So, again, I think, obviously, the Comets should be able to get through that division. There we go. We're back. What happened? We went to the Twilight Zone for a second.
I didn't lose you.
But no, like I said, I think that's good because I was sitting here watching the screen went blank and then I saw 2 little circles. I go, uh-oh. And the technical difficulty monster hit. Okay.
No, just keep going.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the Comets should get out of that conference. They should. So we will see what happens. But I want to know if it's not the Reign, who's coming out of the Western Conference?
I'd be so. I mean, so in fairness, I haven't seen much of Chicago because, to your point, they look really, really good on paper. From what I've seen, boy, Stockton's tough. They are tough. They're tough to break down. They're really good special teams. Their penalty kills outstanding. They don't get outscored. They've got one of the best goalies in the league. They're a balanced offense. Stockton looks tough.
Yeah, they do. It's going to be fun. It really is. I tell you, that's. But I'm telling you, if you have AHL TV, watch some of these Western Conference games because you're missing it. I'm telling you, you are missing out.
And I'm telling you, I got to say, if you have an opportunity, hey, these games are late. I'm staying up till the 10 o'clock start time, so it's not a whole lot of fun sometimes. But you find yourself an early game, and you get a chance to watch TJ Tynan, I'm telling you, he is worth the price of whatever AHL TV costs for. He's going to guarantee he's going to get points that night. He's going to dominate the play. You look at the top of the stand and the points right now. He's one of the leaders. He's close to breaking an assist record in the AHL, or at least he's in the conversation. So a really, really fun player to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what the nice thing is, even though they're late games, you have on AHL TV, you have the on-demand games. So
exactly.
It's perfect. All right, so we're going to do a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. We're going to wrap things up. You want to stick around for the wrap-up?
Love to.
All right, so like we always do, we're going to go to commercial break, okay? But before we go to commercial break, we're going to do breakaway trivia. Now, this is always the fun part. Dave always answers Wayne Gretzky. I can tell you the answer is Wayne Gretzky.
No, I might say somebody other than that, Messier or somebody. I don't know. I mean, I have like 4 or 5 names in my bucket.
Okay, well, all right. Well, before we get to breakaway trivia, why don't we get a little quick message from our friends at the Balls Army? I don't know if you've heard of these guys, Joe. They're awesome. All right. So first of all, Josh Amodio has priceless inspections. You need your house inspected? This is the guy to call. You can call him at 315-525-8725 for all your home inspection needs. And of course, the ringleader of the Balls Army, Mr. Scott Schuster, has epic DJ service. And there it is right there. You can call him at 315-219-3568 for all your DJ needs. And if you've ever heard him at the Adirondack Bank Center, you will know having him as a DJ is a fantastic time. All right, so let's get to that breakaway trivia question. Now, everybody knows that the Calder Cup is awarded to the AHL champion each season. What I want to know is what team has won the most Calder Cups? And we're going to do a quick commercial break, and the answer will be when we come back.
Visit My Little Falls and stay connected with the latest news, information, and events in the city and the area. Our mission is to generate interest in the community and connect residents in a more meaningful way by facilitating deeper conversations about how these stories will shape the future of the Mohawk Valley. Join thousands of weekly visitors who stay up to date with feature stories, interviews, videos, our event calendar, and print publication, the Mohawk Valley Express. It's about timely local news for the community, keeping citizens informed about important issues, telling about the people who live and work here, and giving locally owned businesses the opportunity to reach a very targeted audience of locals and tourists alike. It's a whole new form of media-rich content developed specifically for today's mobile lifestyle and listeners. You can download our iOS app in the iTunes store, listen to our country music streaming radio station, or sign up for a weekly newsletter. Stop by today at mylittlefalls.com. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, man, I just had one of those cookies, and Deb is like the cookie queen. That was awesome.
God.
You should have seen me. I was trying to eat so fast. I look like a chipmunk, just kind of shoveling into my mouth.
It was pretty funny.
Awesome.
Oh, boy. So anyways, that breakaway trivia. So I'll ask you guys one more time. Who's won the most Calder Cups? Dave, do you have a guess? I need a team, not a player.
No, I was thinking it through. No, I don't, actually.
None? Nobody? Okay. I'll let you go on this one.
Well, if Gump were here, I'd throw a name out.
Yeah, I know, right? Joe, what do you think?
There was a part of me that almost thought that maybe it's a team. It's like a trick question. It's a team that's not around anymore, like the Albany River Rats or something like that. But I don't have a great one, but I'll throw the Syracuse Crunch out.
It's a good guess. I actually was, before, obviously I know what the answer is. I was almost thinking along the lines of the Providence Reds, who were a dominant AHL team back in the day. But it's not. It's the Hershey Bears.
Okay.
They've won 11 of them.
Wow.
How was Syracuse close at all? Do you have the numbers in front of you?
Who?
No.
Sorry.
You probably haven't even won one.
I think Rochester's second on that list, actually.
I was going to say Rochester's probably, but they haven't won since the Tortorella year in '96.
Yeah, but they've been around forever.
They've been around, yeah, and they had a lot of good years. That's true.
So, but yeah, the Hershey Bears. So
okay, there we go.
Yeah, there you go. So anyways, coming back to our Eastern Conference here and specifically our Utica Comets. The Comets schedule this week is home tomorrow night against the Belleville Senators, Friday night at Belleville, and then Saturday afternoon at the Laval Rocket. So the magic number for them to clinch a playoff spot is 5, and to clinch the division is 9. So if all goes well, by the end of this week, they could have the playoff spot clinched, and then knock on wood, whatever it is.
It's all plastic.
Okay, pretend it's wood.
Deal with it. Just
pretend it's wood. Hopefully have the division clinched by the end of next week. So we're hoping we're want to get that the monkey off our back, so to speak, as far as that goes. But AJ Grier was also named Player of the Week for the AHL last week. I'm going to tell you, man, that was fun watching him come back because him and Kevin Ball had just come back from New Jersey last Monday, and the Comets had a brutal stretch. They had like 5 games in 7 nights because there was 2 makeup games from when some of them were postponed when the whole COVID thing was going on. So, I mean, they got points in the 3 of those 5 games, which you can't complain about. I mean, that's, it is what it is. But AJ Grier was just incredible. He in 4 games, he had like 4 goals, 6 assists. Excuse me, he's one of that cookie. That cookie caught me. It did. It really did.
No talking up.
Yeah, no, right? But no, he's absolutely incredible. And I'll tell you, AJ Grier is a fun player to watch, and he's a former Colorado Eagle.
There we go.
So yeah, I bet you they miss him.
Just like how soon was it? Because TJ Tynan for Ontario was also a Colorado Eagle last season.
Yeah, he was 2 seasons ago, or it was last season he was an Eagle, because he was also Mark Alt, who was just acquired by the Rochester Americans, was also on that team. So
yes, he was.
They had a pretty good team.
Yeah, they did.
So that's hey, I mean that's all good on them. But again, like I said, the way things are rolling here, we're running out of home games, sadly enough, for us Comets fans, because I got the season tickets. So we're just want to get that playoff spot clinched so we can start getting our playoff seats on sale and just get that out of the way as well. So, but it's what's going to be nice is being able to drive into the parking lot with just a T-shirt on. Because I'm going to tell you something, I am so tired of freezing going out of the parking lot, going across the street, because I don't know if you've been at the Adirondack Bank Center lately, but with that parking lot out back, that wind just comes crashing across that parking lot. And
I'm telling you, I don't have to tell you, you live there. When I was at Morrisville, the wind through those hills.
Yes.
Now, you don't believe it because of what's there right now. I had hair down to my shoulders. I'm telling you, after the games, and this is a true story. After the games, your hair's still a little wet from the shower. By the time I would make it I'd walk out and then get to my car, it was click, click. I could hear ice. It was like icicles. That's how cold and windy it was in central New York. There's no doubt about it. It is windy like crazy.
Oh man, that's so true. My son went to Morrisville, so I know. Was it
recent?
Yeah, he was just a few years ago. He graduated. Never played. He played football, but he didn't play hockey.
Because I coached a couple guys I coached with actually from Hilton. Actually played at Morrisville just recently. So that's cool.
I'll tell you that is such a beautiful rink they have there, though.
The ice
box, I love it.
Yeah, a lot of memories there.
Did you know they shut the second rink down?
I did not know that.
Yep, it's all shut down.
How come?
So they're turning it into another basketball court in some kind of student center or something.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So. But they kept the main rink open.
Sure.
Interesting. Yeah, it's like this best kept secret in Central New York, because if you want to get some ice time, go like a skate and shoot or something like that. That's the place to go.
Well, and the ice is pretty good. Like,
it's awesome.
That is really good ice. I mean, so I didn't know about that. The second sheet, no, didn't know that.
Yeah, it's too bad, but it's still a beautiful complex, and but yeah, so anyways, just one last note to wrap up on the Southern Professional Hockey League. I don't know if you ever heard of the SPHL, but they wrap up their regular season this weekend, and then of course the playoffs follow that. Friend of the show, Roy Chambers, his Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs are in the playoffs. They clinched. He was on a few weeks ago, man. He is so much fun. As a matter of fact, he said he's going to come back on to keep us updated on the playoffs, and as well as the Pensacola Ice Flyers. who another friend of the show, Vice President of the Comets, Adam Pollock, played for. So, like I said, Roy will be coming back on. I don't know if it's going to be this coming week or the week after, or whenever we can get him in. But it's going to be fun. And one of these days, Joe, I'm telling you, I'm going to get down south to go to one of those games because I'm in their Facebook groups, the fan pages there. Yeah. Oh, man. Awesome. Intense. Awesome. It's great. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So, Joe, finishing up, you guys do once a week, right, for Making It Rain?
Yes. Yeah. Right now we record once a week. It's generally we'll generally do it probably about 9 or 9:30, give or take, Eastern time. We usually do it live like this, so we have folks come in and ask some questions. And yeah, we talk all things rain. Occasionally, again, we had Sean O'Brien on to kind of talk about some statistical stuff, just like Jacob Stoller we had on. So, it's we'll see what happens as we get into the playoffs and go from there. And hey, who knows? We get a Rain and Utica matchup in the Calder Cup Finals.
Oh man,
we'll have to do a mashup.
That would sort of be like a rematch from 15 when the Manchester Monarchs.
That's right.
Kings Farm Club made it against the Comets. So
right.
Oh man, that would be incredible.
Can only hope, right? Hey, I got a couple of chances, right? If Ontario,
yeah, there you go.
There's Syracuse is still in this hunt, right? Somewhere, right? They're in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they're actually third now.
Yeah. Syracuse, Rochester, Utica. That's my neck of the woods.
So there you go. There it is. So Making It Rain, is that on its own on YouTube or is that under Hockey Royalty?
It's under Hockey Royalty. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And the same thing for Apple Podcasts, Spotify.
Yep. It'll all be under the Hockey Royalty, family. Yep.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yep. We got some merchandise. I'm wearing the shirt here on Hockey Royalty. So as you know, Scott, a lot of guys join the team there, and we got a bunch of articles that just get pumped out, day after day about a variety of things, whether it's the Kings, their line combos, or whatever it is. There's all sorts of stuff that's coming out. So a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah,
we do the weekly Pacific Division power rankings. Lots of fun stuff, lots of interesting stuff on there. So if you're looking to get outside the normal field of vision that you have for hockey, go check out hockeyroyalty.com. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And of course, check out the guys on the Making It Rain podcast. And while you're subscribed to that, check out Hockey Royalty because I'm usually on that one too. So if you're not sick of hearing my voice by now, you will be sick of it by the time you hear that. So Dave's going, yep, for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm not making you any more cookies. Oh boy. But anyways, Joe, thanks a million for coming on. We really appreciate it, man. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey man, I really appreciate you having me. It's been a blast. I mean, I'm sorry I missed the cookies, but it's been a lot of fun. Anytime.
Well, I'll tell you what, someday I'll get your mailing address and I'll have, we'll see if Deb will make you some and we'll send them out to you.
There we go. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
That's awesome. Well, folks, that's all we got for this week. Again, thanks to Joe Patarino for coming on the show and checking us out. You can always check out martysillegalstick.com for our daily articles about the Comets, Central New York hockey, and of course, every episode of Marty's Illegal Stick that's ever been. You can also check us out on Facebook, Twitter. I think there's an Instagram page. And of course, please subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find your podcasts. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. All right, so that's all we got. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week on Marty's Illegal Stick Hockey Podcast.